We're going to be doing a series throughout the month of May called Sermon and a Song series. And what I'm looking to do during this little series is to bring to you a message, hopefully a clear message that is from the Lord, that is scriptural and all of those good things, of course, but also a song that God has given to me to sing to you or for you or to have the band play for you. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a pretty musical guy. I've been a part of music things for many, many years and still enjoy writing and playing music, even now with my family, and go around doing things with music. And so, but all this kind of started when I was really when I was a kid, I used to sing all the time. My parents would turn up the car radio. I'd sing to my loudest, and then they'd turn it up louder, and I'd sing some more, I was just always singing. And then I remember going on vacation with my aunt and uncle, and they came back and reported to my parents, and they'd say, I remember my uncle saying, "Is there a song on the radio your son doesn't know?" Because I just would pick up lyrics, and I loved music, and singing. Then I was about 10 years old when I went into my cousin's garage, and inside the garage was this square box with some piano keys on it and a little switch on the side. I plugged it in, I turned it on, and this sound of air just kind of rose up in it like a pump inside of it. It was the weirdest thing. And then I pushed the key down, and it honked. I swear, like a goose. It was like, ha! That was the note that I hit. I'm like, wow, okay. And so I just sat there, ha, ha, and all these notes were coming out of this thing. And so there I sat in among all this junk, and I started playing this little air box, whatever it was. And I found out I had a little bit of a maybe gift. I don't know. I was sitting there honking out. And the first song I ever played was like the theme music to Star Wars. So I'm sitting there, ba, 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 ba. I'm like that. And then I had my dad and my mom and my cousins, everybody come out to the garage by the air organ among all the junk. And I had my first piano recital right there. Played the Star Wars theme song, like 10 years old. Well, my cousin was generous with the honking organ thing. And he's like, "You can take that thing home if you'd like." So I did. And took it home and honked around, but then it died, not that long afterwards, so wah, wah, wah. But, so then, a few years later, it was woodcutting day. Now, woodcutting day is always on a Saturday for my family in the fall. It was woodcutting day, and my dad and my uncle and my grandfather, they had stopped this chainsaws for a bit, and they were sitting on the tailgate sharpening their saws, and I came around the side of the truck, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, do you think there's any chance that I could get a piano?" It was a stupid thing to ask on manly woodcutting day because my grandfather decided to answer the question for my dad. He said, "Boy, don't you know only gay men play the piano?" I was like, excuse me, backed away. I was pretty devastated. I was like, what in the world? So anyway, it was about 2 years later before I ever got up the nerve to ask again whether or not I could have a piano. And I think I've proved the rest, in terms of my sexuality over the years. So, Grandpa was wrong. Anyway, but yeah, so I finally did get a keyboard. My dad bought a keyboard for me, and it was right after that, my brother's like, "We ought to start a band." I'm like, "Yeah, we ought to start a band." So we collected a bunch of guys, and we started a band back in, the late 80s, early 90s. And so here's a picture. Here's a picture of the band. And our name, like any 80s, 90s rock band, had to have a heart kind of thing in it. So here we were, Surrendered Heart. And we rocked every youth group that would have us, man. We went and toured all the youth groups, and we just had a blast all through high school, Surrendered Heart. Now, some of the people in the first service are like, "Well, which one are you?" Well, if you don't know, there I am. And the dude elbow to elbow with me, that's my brother, Chad. And anyway, we just had a blast singing and performing music all through high school, and music's been a big part. So I was kind of the front man for the band. I sang and I wrote songs, and we had just a great time. And so since that time, I've still continued to sing and write songs, and I actually did try to take some music lessons, but my ear got in the way. I remember when I was about, 13 or something, I took some lessons, and about 3 months into it, my instructor said, "I don't think you're learning very well." And she says, "Play this." And she kept pointing to notes, and I was just guessing. She's like, no. And she's like, "Have you just been listening and then going home and practicing what you heard me play for you?" I'm like, maybe that's what I've been doing. She's like, "Well, okay, here's the deal." And she was kind of mad at me. "Here's the deal. I'm going to talk to your parents. You can either quit or you can start completely over in this book. We're starting all the way over." And I quit. Except for I didn't quit. I just kept playing. I just didn't ever learn to read music. So regrettably, I've never learned to read music, but I still continue to play and write, and I love music. How many of you are music lovers today? You love music, whether you can play anything or not. Music is just a big part of your life, and I see some of you crazies, really big music lovers. Like you'll be riding around in your cars, and you'll pull up to the stop sign, and you have your windows up, and we can't hear you, but you're like, and we're like loving it. I am like that until I get to the stop sign, but then I get all self-conscious, and I'll be rocking out, but then I get to the stop sign, and I kind of do the ventriloquism version. Then I'm like, no. I still sing, but I just kind of clench my teeth and sing because I'm self-conscious. Anybody self-conscious at the stoplight? Yeah, if you're not rocking out, singing clenched teeth, you're probably either on your phone or picking your nose, one or the other. That's what you're doing, but music's a big deal for me, and it always has been, and it is for many of us. And have you ever been in a car, maybe riding somewhere, and a song comes on, and the song just hits you? Maybe it's a song you've heard a million times, or maybe it's a song you've heard, maybe it's the first time, but it just kind of hits you. And you find yourself resonating with it, and you're thinking about what it's saying, and you feel something, or the message, or there's a truth that's just kind of coming through. And you're kind of maybe almost caught off guard and surprised by it, maybe. I don't know. I remember that happening to me a number of times, but a specific time when I was between ministry and what God was wanting Tammy and I to do with our lives, and it was a confusing hour, more than an hour. It was a confusing season for us. And I remember I was driving along, and whether you like them or not, at that point, I don't know if I really liked them all that much, but this Danny Gokey song came on. And the song was, "Tell Your Heart to Beat Again." And I sat there with that song, and I think I had heard it before, but for whatever reason, I'm driving along, and that song comes on, and it says something like, hey, leave the past in the past. That's a closed door. You don't live there anymore. Say goodbye to where you've been, but tell your heart to beat again. In other words, put your faith in God again. He's got new things for you. And I just remember I got to the end of that song, and before the DJ could spin another hit or put on a commercial to sell me something I didn't need, I turned off the radio, and I just stayed in the moment, and I just reflected on what just happened and what I felt and what I was thinking and what I had been going through and what the song had just said and what truth I felt God was delivering to my heart in that moment. You ever been there? Anybody else ever done that? Am I the only weird one? Okay, good. One other weird person. But yeah, you know what I mean, right? Just something hits you. And that moment that I had in the car after the song was over is a moment that we're actually called to have in songs that are within the Scriptures. The songs that I'm referencing within Scriptures are the Psalms. And the Psalm writers, they create movements and songs. Have you ever been to a classical music moment where they have a piece and there's a bit of music and then there's this pause and then it's like a silence, but then there's the next piece that comes and you're not supposed to clap, you're not supposed to get up and go get popcorn or whatever. Like you're supposed to stay in the moment between the movements, but the song's not over, right? That moment, if we want to equate it or bring it to something today, is a moment that I think Scripture calls Selah. Selah. And today I want you to discover Selah. And not that it's going to become this big doctrine of the church or this new big spiritual discipline. I just want you to be able to read and experience the song the way it was meant to be read and experienced. Since we can't sing it, we're readers at this point. But I want us to feel what the songs or psalms are saying and what we can do in the middle or in the moments when we're called to. And I'm disappointed. I got to tell you, I'm disappointed in what's the New Living Translation Bibles that we have in our pews in here today. I love it. Love that translation. But I'm a little disappointed because in our scriptures here in the sanctuary today, you'll notice it says interlude. And that just doesn't do it. Interlude. What's an interlude? Get up and hang out, take a deep breath. What are you supposed to do in an interlude? No, Selah. Selah is what we're supposed to do. And Selah is a purposeful pause. And so if you've got notes today, you might want to write a couple things down. And that is that Selah is not just a musical notation just to take a rest or to interlude or just to, have a quiet moment. It's a purposeful pause. And if you look up the meanings to Selah and words that are associated to it, you'd find that the pause is meant for us to weigh in. We're supposed to consider. We're supposed to measure ourselves against what was just shared. We're supposed to be able to relate. It's kind of a be still moment, but not just silence, to calmly think about what has been shared. And so I want us to today discover Selah and incorporate it at least in our reading of the Psalms, and maybe even sort of see if God would like to have you embrace it in a way of spiritual discipline in a certain way. Discovering Selah. And the way I want to take us through it is to do it with Psalm 77. I love this psalm, and you'll hopefully see why as we work through why I relate. Now, this Psalm 77, it's for Jeduthun, and he's like the choir director, and it's a psalm of Asaph. And Asaph, we could look him up. There's not a lot to know about him necessarily. He may just be a translator for David or a writer for David, whatever. What the cool thing is, it doesn't matter because we're just meant to read the psalm and relate with it, and that's what we're going to do. I cry out to God. Yeah, I shout. Oh, that God would listen to me. When I was in deep trouble, I searched for the Lord. All night long I prayed, and with hands lifted toward heaven, but my soul was not comforted. I think of God and I moan, overwhelmed with longing for his help. Selah. Ever been there? Ever cried out to God all night long because there's some trouble that came to you? Trouble that maybe you invented by the choices that you made. Or maybe trouble that came to you because life just has a way of bringing it. And now you're sitting there wondering how things are going to go, how it's going to work, what you're going to do, what way will there be through this trouble. And you know, like this psalm writer, you know that there are plenty of things from the world that would love to say, hey, just come over here for a minute. Be distracted by this, But instead it says, I sought the Lord. He's smart enough to know that turning to those other things isn't going to help, but yet he's not, at least in the moment, feeling like he's experiencing God's help. But he knows God's the answer. Not drugs, not pleasures, not alcohol, not binge watching something off of Netflix just to escape into some other not reality, but world. I mean, he knows that God's the answer. It's just that he thinks of God and how he knows about God, but he just moans because he doesn't know if God is going to help. Maybe you have been there. Maybe you are there. Weigh in for a moment. Selah. Well, like any good song, there's a second verse. Sometimes second verse, same as the first, but second verse sometimes is the development of how things really are. It's more and deeper into the song. Let's see where it goes. And by the way, this is what I love. If you're taking notes, you can fill this in. The Bible's not only true factually, it's true personally. And that's why I'm showing this to you today. We can read these stories and we can find that these things happened. But what we really find is that these things happen. That this all took place and it's written down for us. And we can see what happened to the biblical writers and their experience of walking and relating and trying to know God and live for God and all these things. But then we can also bring it's as relevant today as we look into it and we say, yeah, I can relate with this. This is not only true, it's true in me today. Let's look at this. You don't let me sleep. I'm too distressed even to pray. I think about the good old days, long since ended. When my nights were filled with joyful songs, I searched my soul and ponder the difference now. Has the Lord rejected me forever? Will he never again be kind to me? Is his unfailing love gone forever? Has his promise permanently failed? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he slammed the door on his compassion? Selah. At first it was, I can't sleep because I'm praying. I'm trying to get in touch with you, God, all night long. And now it's just, I can't sleep and I can't even pray anymore. Like I'm beyond words now. I'm just don't know what to say. I think of the good old days. We all have those, don't we? Remember when it was simpler? Remember when it was easier? Remember when he was still alive? Remember when we were still together? Remember those days? Remember those days when God seemed to be blessing everything you were doing? Like you would touch it and it turned to gold. Like God was just totally behind you and you were, everything was up and to the right. It seemed like it would always be that way. But now, where are you, God? Do you remember where I'm at? Are you choosing to withhold yourself from me? Are you forgetting to be gracious? Because I think that's who you are, but maybe not. Have you slammed the door on me? Selah. Ever been there? Are you there now? A famous preacher said this last week, if you were here. Or he said something very near this. He said circumstances, sometimes distressing circumstances, sometimes create biblical amnesia. When Pastor Tom said that last week, I thought, yep, that's happened to me. Circumstances have come to my life that I forget who God really is. I forget what he's done. I forget about his character. I forget about his consistency. And I have forgotten that he'd made promises that were true, not just for me, or not just for others, but for me. Let's move forward in the psalm and see where it takes us. The song moves on. And I said, well, this is my fate. The Most High God, the Most High, has turned his hand against me. But then, I love this part. To me, it's like the spin, or it's the chorus, or it's the tag, I don't know, in the song that just says, yeah, this is how we felt. But wait a minute. But then I recall all you've done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds of long ago. They're constantly on my thoughts. I cannot stop thinking about your mighty works. Oh God, your ways are holy. Is there any God as mighty as you? You are the God of great wonders. You demonstrate your awesome power among the nations. By your strong arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. At the point where he started to think, well, maybe this is my fate. And like I said, others of us, maybe at this point, we just turn our backs on God because we feel like God's turned his back on us. But this psalm writer instead started to reflect on God and his character and his mighty works, and that there's a huge list of them, things that he's been doing since creation and throughout the life and history of God's people. He started to reflect on mighty works and mighty deeds, and maybe, I don't know which ideas came to his mind. Maybe it was the plagues when Moses came and then the deliverance of the Hebrew children, maybe the parting of the Red Sea, maybe it was in the desert when God gave manna, when God gave water from a rock, when God gave them food to eat in terms of the quail that came. Maybe it was the moment when they parted the Jordan River. All these moments, glorious moments of God, start flooding back into his mind. And I don't know where you're at with those moments, but I would ask you or call you to think on this idea. And that is this, that the stories, those stories, their stories, by faith, those biblical stories, those history stories, they are mine. And I think that's where the psalm writer, there were many years before this psalm writer would write these words. And he's reflecting on all of these things and how God had done wondrous things. And what I think he was able to do was he was able to embrace those stories, not just as the stories of God and God's people, but those stories are his by faith. And today, that's who you should be too. That's who I should be. We should all embrace the stories of biblical history, not just as the Bible stories, but my story. That story about how God came through, that's your history. That's your family's photo album. That's yours to hang on to. That's yours to believe in and remember as something that impacted your life and your heritage by faith. And many of us, I think we disconnect when in fact we're invited to embrace biblical history as my history. That's what I love about the Jews even to this day. They don't talk about when the Hebrew children were slaves in Egypt. They say, when we were slaves in Egypt, God heard our cry and delivered us. That's you. That's me. This is what I love about the development of the song. When the Red Sea saw you, O God, its waters looked and trembled. The sea quaked to its very depths. Clouds poured down rain. The thunder rumbled in the sky. Your arrows of lightning flashed. Your thunder roared from the whirlwind. The lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your road led through the sea. Your path through the mighty waters, a pathway no one knew was there. You led your people along that road like a flock of sheep with Moses and Aaron as their shepherds. Selah. Think on that. Weigh in with that for a moment. God made a way where there wasn't one. It couldn't have been imagined. Here they were up against the Red Sea with an army coming up upon them who they had just been freed from, but looks like things have turned around and now they've been freed only to die out here near this big body of water. But instead, God hears their cry. God sees them, and he makes a way where there could never be a way. But God did it. And how many of us have a moment because of our following Christ and in following God where he made a way where there just wasn't one. It was impossible. You didn't see that coming, now did you? I got vehicles that break down every other stinking day. God has made a way through a couple of really great friends with great skills to help me all the time. I never would have imagined it. I remember a day when we opened the front door at a desperate point in our lives, and there on the front of the door was taped an envelope with money in it. No way! I remember when we were also at a desperate lower point when we opened the front door and there were groceries out there. What? No way. God can make a way where there isn't one. I mean, there was this concept back in the day when I was studying in school and whatnot I think it was called ex nihilo. Do you know what it means? I think, as I recall, it means making something out of nothing. That's my God. He can make something out of nothing. He doesn't need anything. And God has done it for me time and time again. So here's the deal. Here's what I want you to try to merge today. If you've walked with God for any length of time, if you look back through your life, you'll probably start to find little or even big moments like the ones that I just referenced. That's your personal history with God and His goodness and His faithfulness and His grace, right? Now couple that with biblical history that is also whose? Yours. Put those two things together, stick it in your pipe and smoke it. Right? Put those two things together, embrace those two things, bring that into your understanding and remembrance of who God is and what He's like. When you are lying on your bed and in trouble and wondering at moments, because we do, because that's what it's like to be a follower. We're not perfect at it. But when you're wondering, is God with me? Is God for me? Does He see this? Will He do anything about it? Does He care? Does He have resources for me? Is He going to provide? And is this going to come in such a way that I am helped and He is glorified? Is it going to happen or not? We get there, don't we? But Psalm 77 is a great psalm for us to just Selah on through and realize and recognize that, yes, we feel this way. Yes, we experience deep times of trouble and anguish of the soul. And yes, those stories are our stories. And we can hang our hat on just one of them. It'll probably help us get through until the true answer to this round of disappointment or disillusionment is over. And my friends, it will be over. It won't always be this way. Well, there's the sermon. How about the song? If you don't like the song, don't tell me. I invite you to Selah the song a little bit with me. Probably need to turn this on, don't I? Do I need to turn on? Okay.
Waves of fear flood over me, and I am alone out here as far as I can see, and all I can hear is my heart beating. I know I'm alive, but I'm not breathing. Be still, my heart. In the middle of the storm, be still, my mind. His promise is still yours. Be still and know, beyond what I can see, that God is right here watching over me. Be still. And desperately I'm holding on, hoping and praying the morning's soon to come. And these are the days of endless night, and I'm growing weaker in the fight. Be still, my heart, in the middle of the storm. Be still, my mind, His promise is still yours. Be still and know, beyond what I can see, that God is right here watching over me. Be still. Through the high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil, and the one who calmed the waves is calling still. The one who calmed the waves is calling still. Be still, my heart, in the middle of the storm. Be still, my mind, His promise is still yours. Be still and know, beyond what I can see, that God is right here watching over me. My God is right here watching over me. Yes, God is right here watching over me. Be still. Peace, be still. Okay, good. The song worked. That's great. If the song and the message have worked in your heart a little bit today, then I want to invite you to respond. And if you'll stand with me, I don't know what kind of situation or trouble you've been in or has arrived, maybe even this weekend, to your home and to your life and to your heart. But I want to Selah through another scripture with you. And I want to invite you, especially those of you who just want to make a move on faith today toward the Lord. And I know it's just a move physically that represents really a move spiritually. But if you want to take a moment and come use this space right up front, we're just going to be praying. We're not going to illustrate or talk about or share or have testimony time regarding what you're going through. But if you've got something now that has hit your life or that you've been maybe wrestling with for a really long time, it's been an ongoing prayer. Maybe it's been a season of discomfort, doubt, disillusionment, pain, whatever. And you've been on your bed at night praying and wondering how God's going to work. I would invite you right now to step forward and just bring that right up here as we Selah through Psalm 46. So I'm going to give you a second just to respond, just a couple of chords here through. Come on, move forward, and then we're going to just end our service in just a few moments. So make a move. Anybody else? I'm going to invite my daughter Ashlyn here in this moment to read the psalm. And then we're going to Selah at the end of each part where it calls for the interlude or the Selah.
God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear, even if earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge.
Selah. What did we hear? God is our refuge and strength, even if the mountains crumble.
A river brings joy to the city of our God, the sacred home of the Most High. God himself lives in that city. It cannot be destroyed. God will protect it at the break of day. The nations are in an uproar and the kingdoms crumble. God thunders and the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress.
Selah. God, you are our fortress. There's a realm where things are right, and it's not exactly our world right now, God. But your power and your strength and your protection, they are ours, even in this trouble.
Come and see the glorious works of the Lord. See how he brings destruction upon the world and causes wars to end throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and snaps the spear in two. He burns the shields with fire. Be silent and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world. The Lord Almighty is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress.
God, you are right here watching over us. You are our strength and our fortress, Lord. And what you just said in that moment right there was to be still and know that you are God. In other words, you've got this. And Lord, we just want to be able to weather the storm. And whether you calm the storm around us, Lord, I know that your first effort, your first desire is to calm the storm within us. And so, Lord, bring your peace to every heart today. And bring us confidence, Lord, that you are for us and you are with us. And all will round off to our good and your glory. In your name we pray. Everybody said, amen. Well, God bless you. I hope we can enjoy the month of May going through the Sermon and a Song series. And I pray that you will embrace, not just discover, but embrace some Selah. Have a great day. We'll see you hopefully tonight back for some tacos later.